Louisville took advantage of a favorable schedule in 2023. What does it look like for 2024? Well, the schedule once again sets up pretty well. We're going to go through and give predictions for each and every game. First, just some thoughts on this Louisville team. You bring in Tyler Shuck at quarterback. Some people may be higher on him than me. I think it's kind of a lateral move from where they were last year at that quarterback spot. They'll be solid there. I don't think they're going to be great. They're not going to be bad. They'll be solid. Wide receiver, tight end room looks to be kind of similar. You know, they'll be solid. Maybe nothing great. I like the running backs that they've got. The offensive line looks to be pretty strong. Defensive line looks to be pretty good. I think they're going to have a really good secondary. Linebacker position is an area of concern. If you've got one spot where I think this team's going to be pretty weak, it's the linebacker spot. You know, they brought in some really good transfers, but then in the spring cycle they lost some good players. You know, lost Tyler Barron on the defensive line, Jermaine Lowell. So it was an interesting year with them with the transfer portal. Again, it started out it seemed like this team was definitely winners in the transfer portal, and then they kind of in the spring were losers in the transfer portal. But still, a lot of talent on this team. I think they're right there among the top contenders in the ACC. And this schedule, again, sets up pretty well for them. Vegas has them at 8.5 wins. So 8-4, 9-3, the most likely scenario for this team. And I agree with that. I think that's pretty fair. But what sets up well for them, forget the 8.5 wins. Remember, they play Notre Dame and Kentucky in the non-conference. So if they're going to lose, say, 3 games, and they lose those 2 games, that would only be 1 loss in the ACC. You know, they get SMU and Miami at home. They do have Clemson on the road, but it's a really favorable ACC schedule. Now, the overall schedule, maybe it's not super easy, but their conference schedule definitely is going to give them a chance to get right back to that ACC championship. Austin Peay and Jacksonville State, that's where they start the season off, should cruise in those 2 games. So I've got them off to a 2-0 start. Although Jacksonville State's not bad, you know, that's not going to be a 70-0 type game, but they should still win by, you know, about 20 points, maybe something like that in that game. All right, Georgia Tech on September 21st. Really interesting game here. It was a really exciting game last season. I expect, you know, some points to be scored this year. I think that both offenses should be pretty solid. Both teams at the linebacker position, maybe that's a weakness, so you might see both teams having a good day on the ground. It's a tough one, really. I think these teams are fairly even. I do think Louisville has an advantage with their secondary, and I think playing at home will obviously help them out. So I've got Louisville winning a close one over Georgia Tech. Don't expect that to be a blowout, but I do expect Louisville to win. They play Notre Dame the next week on the road. Obviously a tough place to play, and by the way, let's back up. They've got their first bye week between Jacksonville State and Georgia Tech, so a very early bye week, and they will have extra time to prepare for that Georgia Tech game. All right, Notre Dame on the road on September 28th. The ground game for Notre Dame, I think, will probably be the difference here. I think they're able to run the football. They're going to have a really good offensive line, and so I think Louisville maybe struggles to stop that run game. This is a bad matchup for Louisville. Notre Dame is very solid really across the board, and I think their defense also going to make some plays. So I don't expect this game to be super close. I know Louisville wouldn't beat them last year, but I just think this year, if you compare the teams, you look at the matchup, where the game is played, I think Notre Dame probably wins this by a couple of possessions. So I'm going Irish in this game. First loss of the season for Louisville. They play SMU the next week on October 5th. This is a tough one to predict. I think some people expect SMU to struggle in the ACC because they're coming from the group of 5. I disagree. I think they're going to fit in just fine in the ACC. If you look at this roster, SMU is filled with players that came from the Power 5 or Power 4 level. So they've got the talent, I think, to compete with these teams in the ACC. I think this is a really even matchup. 2 teams that I think are going to really be successful running the football in this game. Some points will probably be scored in this one. But I think Louisville's secondary, that's going to be the difference. They'll make some plays. They'll stop the pass game for SMU when they have to. And they're playing at home. That all points towards a win for Louisville. But close, very close game. All right, next we got Virginia, October 12th on the road. Virginia program that's building, that's heading in the right direction, but I don't think they're quite ready to win a game like this. Competitive in this game, but not enough to win. I've got Louisville getting the W here. Miami next on October 19th. This was one of the toughest games to predict on the schedule for really both teams. I just think it's a pretty even matchup. You look at Miami's strengths, I think it's going to be throwing the football. They've really gotten better with adding in Cam Ward at quarterback and the receivers they've added. And the strength of this Louisville defense is going to be the secondary. So it's kind of strength on strength there. But Miami's going to have a good run game as well. And they're going to have a good offensive line. And they're going to have a good run defense. So it's going to be up to Tyler Shuck and these receivers for Louisville. In my opinion, they're going to have to make plays in this game. They could. And again, it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a very hard fought, down to the wire game. But I'm leaning Miami. I'm going to go with Miami to win this game. So Louisville falls to Miami at home. And I've been trying to get away, if you noticed in the videos this year, I've been trying to get away from the close games, just picking the home team, because that's what I've done in the past. I'm really trying to look at the matchups here, and I just think Miami is a better overall team. And again, their balanced offense will be the difference, and that's why I've got Miami. All right, next we got Boston College on October 25th on the road, coming off of potentially a loss there to Miami. This will be a tough, hard-fought game, but I don't think Boston College is going to have enough. I think their defense struggles to slow down this Louisville offense. I'm going Cardinals, and then the next week they'll play Clemson. Actually, yeah, the next week they'll play Clemson on the road. Very tough place to play. I think Clemson's the better team here, not by a lot, but they're also playing at home, and that's a really tough place to play. You look at if Clemson can stay healthy and Phil Moffitt can stay healthy, this is going to be a really good rushing attack, and I think an underrated passing attack as well. So I think the balance on offense for Clemson, their defensive front, which is going to, I think, maybe dominate in this game. You're talking about maybe the best linebacker group in the country and a good defensive line as well. I think that defense controls this game. And just like with Miami, can Louisville make enough plays through the air? If Tyler Shuck comes in there and he is a great quarterback for them, and the passing offense is really, really productive, they could beat Miami and Clemson. I really feel like they could, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm going Clemson in this one. The next week they'll play Stanford. Actually, they get a bye week before traveling out west to Stanford. A Stanford team that, they're just not going to be very good. That's really the only way to put it. I think Louisville able to win that one. Then it's Pittsburgh next on November 23rd. Pittsburgh, I tell you what, you thought maybe coming into this season that, yeah, Pitt should start to improve. Let's see this team get back to where they have been. And they lost some key players in the transfer portal. The defense really got hit hard. I just don't think Pitt's going to be very good. And I think Louisville should roll in this one. And then you've got Kentucky to close out the season, November 30th. Kentucky has really kind of owned this series as of late. The game in Lexington. It felt like Louisville was the better team last year going into that game, and Kentucky still won. The defense for Kentucky will be good. The weapons that they have on offense, I think this Kentucky team, especially playing at home, is going to have the advantage. They've got the mental advantage as well. You got to wonder about Louisville thinking, can we beat this team? It seems like they've really struggled. So I think Kentucky wins this. Again, home field advantage, a big key, and the Wildcats take it. So Louisville finishes 8-4, could very easily be 9-3. I don't think they drop to 7-5. I was between 8-4 and 9-3. And really, it was the Miami game. They could easily win that game, get to 9-3. And you know what? If they win that game and go 9-3, they're probably in the ACC championship, because Notre Dame, Kentucky, I talked about this earlier, those would be non-conference losses. They would only have one conference loss. And again, that's probably going to get them in the ACC championship. So this schedule sets up well. Don't sleep on Louisville. And even if this result plays out, even if they lose 2 games, they could still get in the ACC championship. So Louisville definitely a contender to get there. I'm picking them to go 8-4. What are your predictions for this team? Well, let me know down in the comments below.